And then I'm going to say welcome to everybody to our Unleash Your Voice podcasting for women workshop. I'm so excited that you guys are all here. I'm so thrilled to do this with Siri, and I'm just thrilled. We're going to have such a great time today. We're going to learn so much. We're going to answer all your questions, and it's going to be so beautiful.
We're so excited to help inspire you. Carolee, you look amazing as always. Help inspire you and wherever you're at in your journey, to give you those next concrete steps forward. So, the hills and valleys of podcasting. Yes, we're going to go over that. So, first, we've got a lot to cover today that we want to give you so much value today. But first, we're going to close our eyes. And we're just going to embark on a journey of visualization for the next couple minutes. I'm going to guide you to connect deeply with the version of yourself that embodies success as a podcaster. So, getting yourself comfortable in a seated position, you can just start to close your eyes and just give yourself the deepest breath you've given yourself all day. And just start to feel the ground beneath your feet. Imagining the roots extending from your root chakra, from the base of your spine, all the way down to the core of the earth. And giving yourself another deep breath. And just letting yourself feel a sense of stability and a sense of calm wash over you. What would that feel like as you inhale deeply and you exhale slowly, releasing any tension, any distractions, and just know that you're in the right place at the right time. Your soul chose to be here in this space, in this moment, for a reason. There's something meant for you. And I invite you to start to picture yourself in a peaceful, inspiring space. Is it your favorite room? Is it a cozy studio? Is it a quiet park? Is it the ocean or the forest? And in this space, you feel safe, and you feel held, and you feel empowered. You feel like you. And imagine the colors and the sounds and the scents around you. And just allowing yourself to take in this gorgeous environment. And in this sacred space, I invite you to imagine a version of yourself. It's quiet, and you're sitting at a microphone. Maybe you have a headset on. Maybe it's just a really cute microphone in front of you. Maybe it's your phone. Simple and easy. And you're radiating confidence and joy and authenticity. And you just feel safe to be heard. You feel safe to be known. And you feel safe to share what you know. And you're a successful podcaster. What does that mean to you? You're touching hearts. You're sharing your heart. You're sharing your story. And you can visualize yourself surrounded by this warm glow. And everything is effortless. It just flows. And you feel this excitement building as you prepare to share your voice, your stories, your perspectives, your medicine with the world. And you know that your words have power to touch lives, to inspire others, and to create meaningful connections. And now envision the faces of the people who are listening to your podcast. Picture the women who tune in, feeling empowered, feeling seen, feeling known, feeling understood, feeling uplifted by your stories and your insights and your perspectives and your guests. See their smile, hear their laughter, their tears as they connect with your journey, with the gold in your story. And imagine receiving messages of gratitude, each one a testament to the lives that you've touched. And deep breath. Giving yourself a smile, a rebellious smile, and I want you to feel the warmth. You can even place your hand on your heart and feel the warmth in your heart of knowing that you are making a difference, one episode at a time. And focus on the pride swelling within you, that you've created something beautiful, a legacy that you and your family and your friends can cherish. Imagine your loved ones celebrating your achievement of your 1,000th episode, seeing you not just as a podcaster, but as a role model who follows her dreams. And I want you to picture yourself sharing stories around the dinner table, inspiring your family with your journey and reminding them that they too can chase a dream that they didn't even maybe know that they had. And I want you to feel the love and the admiration and the support and the inspiration surrounding you, knowing that you are paving the way for future generations to be seen and heard and known, that stories shape us, that stories teach us, that stories inspire us, and lifting other people up is one of the greatest things that we can do. And I want you to think of this affirmation, placing your hand still on your heart, smiling and saying, I am a successful podcaster.
I am a successful podcaster.
Good. And your voice, say, my voice matters. I touch lives and create a legacy of inspiration and empowerment. I touch lives and create a legacy of inspiration and empowerment. And let that resonate. Take that in, soak that in, drink that in deeply within you. Allow it to fill every corner of your being. This is your truth. And as we begin to return to this present moment, just giving yourself a few more deep breaths all the way down into your root, all the way up through your heart, all the way up through your crown. Feeling that air fill your lungs. And you can just wiggle it out a little bit. Shake your fingers and your toes. And you can slowly, when you're ready, open your eyes. And I invite you to carry this vision of your successful self with you. And I want you to know that you have the power to create the impact with your vision that you desire, and that you can build this legacy that will make you and everyone proud. To embrace your journey and let your voice shine brightly is such a gift to the whole world. And Carolee, I'm going to turn it over to you, lovely.
Yes. I wanted to share something that I wasn't planning on sharing, but it's so just is coming up this morning in my personal meditation. I did this beautiful inner child visualization, which this reminded me of so much. And what came to me was that as a child, I wanted to be a star, but I quickly learned from all the examples around me that real women don't shine. And guess what? That's not true. We are here to show the women around us how to shine, how to be that example through the podcast that we create, to be that example for so many people that they get to shine. That's my biggest reason for having my podcast, and I hope that you'll take that on as your reason too. You get to show other women that they get to shine their very brightest, most authentic self.
Yeah, and through doing that, we liberate one person at a time. We liberate the people that we interview. We dignify them. We lift them up. We love on them. We elevate them. We showcase them. We give other people a place to be showcased.
It's such powerful work. So, why podcasting? It'll change your whole life. It really will. How has it changed your life, Siri?
Mm. The collaboration aspect is so special to me. I was an actor, a professional TV, film, commercial actor most of my life, and I have backed off from that for the past several years, mostly from being a mom and just kind of not wanting to prioritize that particular lifestyle. But what podcasting has given me in the past few years, similar to you, Carolee, and I can't wait to hear what you share, is it's given me back a platform. It's given myself a platform that I don't have to wait for anybody else. I don't have to wait for a producer, a director, another actor. I don't have to wait on anyone to create when and how I want to create, and to put the message that I want to put into the world as often or however I want to do it. I get to be the director, the writer, the producer, the actor. I get to make my show about what I care about. And then I get to invite the people into my world that I admire or that I love or that need a platform and need a voice. And I get to lift them up and share them. And then that collaboration, just in and of itself, if you've been podcasting already, you know this feeling, right? You know this feeling of like what that feels like when you collaborate with your guest. It just is so juicy and stimulating. It's like this is the bucket list kind of conversations. This is what we live for, is like these intimate conversations, these authentic conversations. And then afterwards, I'm so excited to share. I'm like, oh my God, this conversation we had was amazing. You have to listen to this. And I'm so proud to share. And I learn so much. It has been a crash course in my own spiritual and life education, because I'm crafting my own course of what I want to learn about. And I'm so curious. And I think that's one of the main ingredients is our curiosity as women. And we get to find out more about like, what is that thing that we're grappling with that keeps us up at night, that we're like, oh, how do people get this thing in their life happening? How are they embodied? How are they happier? Like, what do you care about, right? So that collaborative experience is more than what I was getting from acting. It's more intimacy, it's more connection, and it's on my terms.
Yeah, for sure. Learning from other people is like amazing. It's like every time I turn around, I'm telling my husband something new that I'm like, listen to this that I got from this person. They told me from somebody that was on their podcast, and it's changing the way I view myself and everything that I'm doing. And I can't believe it. I'm up leveling again.
Yes.
Yes. So for me, I started my podcast because I really, really needed to be seen. I had this really deep, like trauma-filled need to be witnessed. And so when I started like the Seeking Sunshine podcast, it was like, please see me. Please let
Mm,
me tell my story over and over and over and over again. And I finally was like, I'm going to give myself permission. And then
yes.
after years and years of telling that story over and over and over again, I finally was like, I don't have to tell that story anymore.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell the story of being the victim of my own life anymore. I can change my story. I
Yeah.
can put myself in a place of power. And that is the transformation that I've been over the last year as you've seen the dramatic shift in my show and who I've become. It's been really remarkable. And through, studying with a lot of amazing teachers and changing the direction of my show from being really vague and really thanks, Usually from changing the direction of my show from being really vague and really kind of like needy energy to being how can I serve people? What are my superpowers? And just owning like my own amazingness. And it's been really incredible to watch that. It's it's been, I mean, you've seen it. It's been amazing. Um, so I very much encourage you, like, I completely started my podcast on my own. I started it very, very much bootstrapping it, and it took me years to realize that I needed help. It wasn't going anywhere. I was spinning in circles, and we're gonna go through this. And then at the end, we're going to tell you about how we have a really amazing course to offer you to pour into you all the knowledge that we've gained. And it's going to be transformational because that's the point. That's the
I'm
point is
I'm
to grow.
I'm so inspired by everything you're saying, and it's making me curious, Carolee, as to where everyone's at in their progress from what you just said. So
Yeah.
can you type a one in the chat if you've never podcasted before?
I don't think we have anyone here who's done that, but
Okay, so
we,
so can you type a two in the chat if you've started your podcast and you're loving it and it's great, but you just want a little extra support? Okay, great. And then just type words if there's some other version that you're at so we can see where you're at. Words.
well, and we do have people who'll be watching the replay. So we might cover like a
Yeah.
wide spectrum of things because starting off messy is so important. And there's going to be fears. Like we're going to talk about overcoming fears and finding your unique voice. And like those things come up over and over and over again in your journey, like no matter what part you're at. So we'll get into that. Plus, if you have any questions, ask them in the chat as we go, and we are going to do Q&A at the end. But like, if you have a question, throw it in the chat, and we might answer it on the spot.
So we did create an outline, but we both love improving, and I'm kind of just like, let's just throw out the outline. I mean,
Well, I do want to go into like our sections, but this is kind of like that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna go through.
intuitively, I'm just like, you know what? What would I have wanted to know? That's where I'm
Right.
at. It's like, what would I have wanted to know 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Well, and for me, there's such a big difference between what I wish I knew then, but also what I was ready for then. Because
Hmm.
what I know now and where I'm at now in my journey, I couldn't have handled then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so for the beginning stages, there's different approaches, right? So if you've not started your podcast yet, there's that stage of planning versus just kind of winging it. that we talked a little bit about in our initial conversation. So, if you're at that beginning stage, you can start to map out what you're wanting, right? So, what you want to talk about, what's lighting you up, what are you curious about? And then know that Carolee and I have changed and iterated many, many times.
Yeah.
So, what else do you want to share about getting started, Carolee?
Jump into your initial inspiration. Like when you're like, oh, I think I might start a podcast. And some of us are planners and some of us are like fly by the seat of our pantsers and go with what your energy says to do, you know. But if you are a fly by the seat of your pantser, don't hold back because you think you're supposed to plan. Jump all in with both feet and then start going, okay, how then start your planning. Like don't lose your momentum because you of supposed to's is basically what I want to say with that. And then Lori asked about like, you know, what do you do when how do you keep up the momentum when you've started and it went well at first and then you kind of lost some of that momentum? How do you get restarted? I did that. I started my show and then I stopped for like 6 months. Like, is it even possible to get it back going again after you've lost it? Like, sometimes that feels like it's not possible. Like, how can you have a successful show if you just lost it all and you stopped posting episodes? You absolutely can. And you can choose to do a relaunch and make a big fat deal of it just because you can. You get to choose to make a big fat deal of your show all over social media whenever you freaking want to, just because you can and you get to. So that's an option. Or you could not, and you could just say, I'm back, post a new episode. Like you get to do whatever you want. That's one of the most amazing things about podcasting is it's yours. You're in charge of it and you get to decide what you want to do. You don't have to follow anybody else's rules. You get to do what you want to do and what feels good to you. So if you want
Yeah.
to just pick it back up,
Mm-hmm.
do it. Or you could build up and be like, it's going to be newer, bigger, better. It's going to be exactly the same. Come back and watch it because it's going to be awesome, just like it was before. But one thing to remember is that nothing is a waste. None of your old episodes, unless you go through and delete them all, none of them are going away. People can always come back and listen to them, and they will. They really
Mm-hmm.
will.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting is it kind of to me, and you might disagree, but it kind of to me doesn't matter is if you're starting out and you've never podcasted before, if you're listening to the replay, or if you're like the people here in this group that have been doing it already. Because we get to, like you're saying, reinvent ourselves anytime we want to. We can change the name of our podcast. We can change the type of guest that we want to have on. We can change how long the episodes are, how often the episodes are, right? And if something is stalling you or blocking you and you're feeling like you can't keep it up, we can look at energetically like, what is the thing that's in your way that's you're not feeling lit up about, right? So if you're not feeling passionate and lit up and like, I just want to get this podcast out right now because you're so fired up, maybe you're no longer interested in that topic that you were talking about and you can pivot. Maybe you're interested in a different type of guest and you can pivot. I started mostly interviewing actors and writers and directors, producers, and now I interview mostly spiritual entrepreneurs. And sometimes I'll dip back into the actors, right? But it's up to you. Where are you wanting to lean, right? Like, I feel like it's just like a river where it's like, it's going to flow with you and it's going to serve you. So if your podcast is something that you feel like you're serving and you're the servant of, then that's maybe one of the blocks, as opposed to the podcast is serving you in the things that you're excited about and curious about and who you want to talk to.
Yes.
So we can reinvent and align and realign and come back to center. And then also, I feel like one of the blocks to that momentum issue is, do you need to outsource? Now, I don't outsource anything except for the videos.
Yeah.
Okay. But I could. And you can go on Fiverr, right, Carolee? And or you can ask other podcasters in this group or other podcasting groups, and you can outsource the pieces of the puzzle that do not light you up.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like this really fits into the first part we were going to talk about, which was find your unique voice. That totally involves finding your unique energy and what's really authentic to you. What do you love about podcasting? Lean into that. I do not edit my show hardly at all. I'm not paying someone else to edit my show. I just edit almost nothing. I will occasionally edit a couple of things if I feel like it really warrants it, but I'm not going in and editing out every single breath because I don't want to. I ain't got
Yeah.
time for that. I'm not doing it. Like not happening. But I also am recording on my voice memo notes while I'm in the car waiting for my kids to get out of school. Like you get to make this fit into your life. You get to make it work for you, whatever your life looks like. What is authentic to you? And guess what? What's authentic to you is going to change frequently because we are dynamic human beings. Like our brains are plastic, right? We have that neuroplasticity. We change, and that's a good thing. It's a
Yeah.
good thing that we are constantly growing and learning and becoming. So allow your show to not be stagnant and to grow with you because your audience is going to be like, oh, I get to grow too. I get to change. She gave herself permission to grow and change and iterate.
Yep.
Maybe I could do that too. Maybe I don't have to pick one thing and do that one thing for the rest of my life. Maybe I could change and do something new. Maybe I could do two things at once. Maybe my show doesn't have to be one topic. Maybe it could have a through line and have multiple things, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. So part of your unique voice is figuring out what is it that really is lighting me up right now and how can I make other things fit that.
I want to speak to something you said about editing, which I think is so, so, so key and something that can really bog us down. For years, I was a perfectionist. And I know, Carolee, you know all about this and you teach about this. I wanted to control the way it was perceived. So I was editing for hours and I would edit an episode sometimes for up to 7 hours. Girl, don't
Well,
do
and
that.
you should
Don't.
know that when I started my podcast, I was also that person.
Okay.
That was one of the major reasons I burnt out in the first 6 months of podcasting was
Yeah.
because I did that. I sat with my box and my computer and my thing, and I was like, let me edit out every single breath. And when you go back and you listen to my very first few episodes, they sound super weird because I don't breathe ever.
Hmm. Yeah. I edited out everything that I thought I needed to control,
Yeah.
right? And it's a self-improvement tool because through the work of that, like I guess I had to go through that, but I also have learned as I've gone over the 3 years of like, oh, now I've got it down, right? I put out, this is not most people, but you can do this, is I put out an episode sometimes half an hour to an hour after I've interviewed someone. And they're like, what did just happen? Like they get whiplash from that. And then other people, when I go onto their podcast, they'll be like, so this will come out in 3 months. And that's okay too. Right? So it's like up to you how you want to format it. But yes, with the editing, is I've noticed that I have just relaxed and I sometimes haven't even listened to back lately just because I haven't had time to obsess on it. I also want to say I used to obsess about the numbers. Did you ever do that? Who's listening? How many people are listening?
Yeah. At the
And I've
beginning.
just learned, I mean, it's self-improvement, right? Like I've just learned like, oh, it's not about that.
Well, and the most important thing, like both of those things, they're kind of one and the same. It's like controlling how people perceive you. You can't. You can't control if people listen. You can't control if they comment. You can't control if they respond to it. You can't control it. And you have to realize eventually that, like, really deep down, I'm doing this for me. And the biggest transformation is going to come when I learn how to witness myself and really love myself. And it's when you do that, then people will start going, whoa, you're different. I can sense it in your energy. And then people start becoming magnetized to your podcast because you show up differently when you don't need people to love it.
Yeah. I want to share a benefit. I'm totally off script here. I want to
Okay.
share a benefit, which is my dad started listening to my podcast.
Oh, that's
And talk
beautiful.
about, right? Like talk about, and this was a couple years ago, but it was like a year into it. Talk about like the healing that the podcast can bring to you. Having my dad, whenever he would pick up his mom and bring her back to his house, they would drive for like an hour. And so they would listen, or when he'd bring her home, they would listen to my podcast. I don't care if a million people were listening to my podcast. The fact that my dad and my grandmother were listening to my podcast was so healing and meant everything. I felt so seen and known and loved. That was not something I planned on having as a benefit.
Right.
So there's these unexpected benefits. And
Well, and
then, yeah, and just
sorry,
one
can I
more
just,
thing is,
yeah.
and then interviewing my mom,
Mm.
interviewing my son, interviewing my grandmother, interviewing my dad, some of my closest friends. That, even if no one listened, means everything. What you get out of that, right? And so I'm about to interview my dad and my mom who have not been together since I was 2 years old. Like they're
Wow.
friends, but I'm going to interview them together about my kind of origin story and their marriage and breaking up and all that. Like that's going to happen. This is the kind of stuff we can do. It's to me, it's like therapy.
It is so much therapy, and that's that's exactly what I was gonna say. And to have that recorded, like,
Yes.
and for other people to witness that, it's so powerful for them to be like, that growth is possible for me too. And when you were
Yeah.
talking about like my dad listened to my podcast, I'm like, it's amazing to be able to look at myself and be like, my husband doesn't listen to my podcast. My mom doesn't listen to my podcast. My dad has listened maybe a couple times, but not regularly. And then we get to ask ourselves, like, ooh, that stings. Why? What do I need to like detach from?
Hmm.
What do I need to love more about myself? What do I need to witness more of in me? And that's what's great about podcasting is you get to go, I noticed these things coming up. That it's just like every growth journey, but podcasting really kind of pulled it out of you. Like, oh, I noticed that I was interviewing somebody that I think is better than me.
Mm.
And what did that bring up in me? Like,
Hmm.
do I need to have those feelings? Maybe I don't. You know,
Yes.
it it's such a growth journey because it's bringing you out of your comfort zone in so many different ways, just over and over and over again. I didn't get the numbers I usually get. What did that make me think of myself? What did that make me reconsider about who I am and my worth? My worth is not a number. My value, the value of my voice, the value of the things I have to say, it's not a number.
Okay, I interviewed John Patrick Shanley. He's the writer of Moonlighting. What is the movie Moonlighting?
Lori.
The
He also
share,
I
the
I
share.
do theater. I do
The
theater,
sh
so I know Shannon. Yeah, Moonstruck. Moonstruck.
Moonstruck. Thank
He
you.
also didn't he also do anyway, yes. Yeah,
All the
anything.
plays, Danny and the Deep Blue Sea, tons of movies and mostly plays. He's amazing. He's incredible. John Patrick Shanley. Okay. And so that was like a peak moment. But I also interviewed, as I said, my mom. Guess who got more listens? My mom. So I just think it's fascinating when we talk about the people that we pedestal, and then we realize, like, oh, actually, my mom, who I just think, this is my mom. No one, yeah, I love her, but I'm not like pedestaling her by any means. And then she actually got more, she continues to get more clicks than his interview. Isn't that amazing? So it's just
Yeah.
like fascinating to kind of, and then,
Well, and I want to say really quickly that
yeah,
like when we're going through these up-leveling cycles and we're analyzing our thoughts, the value of being able to say it out loud to somebody and be like, I am struggling because I'm not getting the numbers I want. I'm struggling because my mom's interview got more listens than than John Patrick Shanley. And like, there's these things that are coming up for me, and I'm trying to work through them and they don't make sense. Doing that in a community where you are held, the difference between that and doing it by yourself, it
yeah.
just cannot be matched. It just cannot be matched.
Yes, I think what's so gorgeous about the way you and I are going to serve the people that come into this course is that we have all of the things that we needed that we're going to give you, all of the things that we've accumulated over time that we're going to give you, and then that sense of community. And really, this is as you can tell, an intimate space where you are not going to get lost. You're going to be seen, your challenges are going to be heard. We're going to hold your hand, we're going to help you through, we're going to give you coaching, we're going to guide you. I think that's the thing that I probably needed and did not have and struggled through unnecessarily in ways that I did not need to.
Yeah, I really needed more feedback at the beginning of my podcast of like, this isn't working for people. And here's why. And like, yeah, there's so much to that. All right, what fears? I want to talk about overcoming fears and doubts. What doubts come up for you guys that we can specifically speak to? Can you guys put that in the chat? And then we'll
Well,
talk about
yeah, while you're doing that, I think one of the fears for a lot of people is the tech, right? And so you have, Carolee, these incredible, simple, easy, accessible videos that are already recorded that as soon as you join the course, you're going to have access to, and you can binge them or you can watch them in your own timing.
Yep.
And then we can also troubleshoot with you as well.
Yeah. And
But I think that's one of the biggest fears that people have is that tech part.
yeah, it looks really overwhelming. And you look at podcasts and you're like, one of the things that my mom said about my podcast, she was like, you do all that tech? Like everybody I know who has a podcast has like people doing their tech for them. And I was like, nope, I'm the one like I suck at tech. I'm notoriously bad at tech, FYI, which somehow is why I teach tech, because it turned out like it doesn't have to be hard. It actually can be really easy.
Yeah, I think I also would call myself someone who's not good at tech, but I also do all of it myself and have just learned through trial and error. But what I'm excited to do is actually give you guys exactly what I've learned through that trial and error and say, here's the fastest way, here's the simplest way. And Carolee's, you're like a wizard at that, doing things the fastest, simplest way, because I think the other fear that people have in general is I don't have enough time.
Yeah. Yep. And I do not spend very long on my podcast. I really do not. I can have a whole episode from not having any episode to having it out, like a mini, like a 15 minute minisode from conception to out in 20 minutes. Like it can be really, really easy if you let it be. And the thing with the tech is it's like there's going to be a learning curve to whatever new thing that you're doing. Anytime you embark on learning something new, it's going to take a little bit of time to learn it. But once you learn it, then you're like, oh, yeah, I got this. So you're going to learn the new thing and then you're going to know it. And then that's it. And so if you have a guide that can show you this is the one tool that will do 20 things, then you can learn one and not 20.
Yeah.
That makes it easier.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of parts to it, but I think all of them are really simple once you know it once. And then you, like
Yeah.
you said, you can just keep implementing it. So I
Yeah.
see
And
here,
plus,
yeah.
well, sorry, I was gonna say, plus you don't have to do all the parts at first. You could start with one part and then you can add two parts and then you can add three parts. Like it doesn't have to start with every part.
And I still find myself learning faster ways of doing things. The more and more and more and more I do it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I should have been doing it this way the whole time.
Right.
Yeah. So rejection is one of the fears listed here. So that is with anything that we put ourselves out for, right? We're going to have that across the board. Is that feeling of the fear of the rejection? No one's going to listen or they're not going to like it, right?
Well, and I want to say that nobody listening is not rejection. Somebody verbally rejecting, somebody coming on and commenting on your thing, something mean or something hateful, it's actually helping your algorithm. It's actually better for you to have like an out loud like hater than somebody who's neutral.
Yeah.
It's actually so much better for your show to be seen. Like it's going to help people be drawn to you when you have something that's divisive. If you have something that is like, ooh, a little sassy, a little bit like edgy, people will be drawn to it, even if it's because they want to fight you on it. You're going to have equally as many people who are like fighting for you.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think the thing is that the rejection piece is so much of our own wanting to control how we're perceived.
Yeah.
Because when we put ourselves out there, whatever the outcome is, it's really just about the process of the experience that you're having when you're doing it and then putting it out there. And then as you go, if you stay consistent and you keep coming back to what lights you up about it, you'll start to get more and more interesting opportunities, interesting guests, interesting themes you want to talk about. What are you digging into? What book are you listening to? And then also monetization can start to happen. Affiliates can start to happen. People can start to approach you, right? So there's so much benefit and gold in anything that we do that requires us to have that 20 seconds of courage to put ourselves out to potentially be rejected, but 0.1% of the time are we actually ever being rejected. I don't think I've ever like actually been rejected. It's just all perceived fear, right?
Right. Well, and the truth about rejection is that it's really all an internal job. Like if somebody's coming up to you and they're like, "You're purple." I don't know why I always use purple. Purple's always my example.
Because
If
you're wearing
you,
purple
I know
today.
purple's my favorite color.
Yeah.
So if you don't actually agree with it, then you're kind of like, "What? What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like that doesn't make any sense to me." And it really just rolls right off and you're like, okay, like I don't agree with you, so it doesn't mean anything. It only
Mhm.
stings, it only hurts if you actually agree with it.
Yep.
So if somebody's rejecting you and you're like feeling it, it's because part of you is like, I deserve it. I agree with it. So you have to first know your worth so freaking much that nothing can touch you. And then you can stand up and be as bold as you want to be because nothing can touch you when you know your worth so firmly.
Okay, speaking to this piece about knowing our worth, because I think that can be challenging for
Oh,
so
yeah.
many of us
Yeah.
women.
Yeah. It's an ongoing journey.
you get courage, right? We all know this. You get courage from being in the community of people that are locking arms and hearts and doing it together and hearting each other's stuff and
Yeah,
lifting each other up.
and when you see other people who believe in you more than you believe in yourself, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know that like yesterday I had somebody say something about me and I was like floored that that person could have a vision for me that was so much bigger than the vision I had for myself. Usually that person is Mare. This was actually somebody else. And I was like, holy cow, that's possible for me. Now I need to up level my vision to match theirs, because oftentimes our vision for ourselves is we don't see ourselves as grand as maybe other people see us. A
Yeah,
lot more
we're not
often.
focusing on
Yeah.
that aspect of ourselves most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So fear of being perceived as being boring has come up many times. So putting perceptions onto other people. Um, I get that. I definitely get that. That fear of being boring. Who's going to want to listen to this? Is this going to be interesting for someone else? But what I would say is, if it's interesting to you, that passion for the thing that lights you up is going to be interesting to someone else because the passion is infectious.
Yes. I was
It's
gonna say it's
not,
contagious. Yes, it totally
yeah,
is.
it's not even so much. Yes, of course, the thing that you're excited about talking about is important, and that's, a thing. But then also, equally important, if not more important, is the way that your energy is around the thing that's lighting you up is what's going to be so exciting to somebody else. So
Yeah.
if you're afraid that something you're sharing is boring, look at what's the thing that's really even like maybe you're not talking or sharing about the thing that's the most exciting to you. And then you can excavate what actually is more exciting to me. Because when you are sharing or asking people about the thing that you truly, deeply, deeply really care about at the end of the day, at the end of your life, that's going to have a universal, specific depth. The specificity and the depth to which you are talking about the thing that you care about is going to be a universal interest to others. Yeah.
Well, and number one, like, don't assume that if you're not getting listens, that it's because people don't like it. That's a really easy assumption. Don't assume that no response is automatically negative. We do that a lot. Number two, I had a thing. I already left my mind because I talked about number one. Um, I was gonna say something.
Being perceived as
Um,
being boring.
I know we talked about that.
Getting into the thing that really lights you up.
Yes, I love talking about doing what lights you up. It's my favorite topic in the whole world. Um, it was like when I don't know, I always talk about doing what lights you up. When you are leading with curiosity. When
Mm,
you lead with curiosity, especially in conversations, it's really interesting. Like
yeah.
leading with curiosity, it's like that's always just fascinating, and it brings out the best in your guest when it's like, no, I genuinely want to get to know you, and so does your audience. And I also had a third
We
thing, but I
have
can't remember.
something here that says, my fear is about my voice, and you'll think of the third thing. My fear
Mm,
is about my voice, not about my topics. I have a generally
oh,
calm and non-elevated voice. My initial reaction to what you're saying is, I have listened to other people's podcasts whose voices, so many different podcasts whose voices I don't think are enjoyable, but their heart comes through. So either what they're sharing is really important to me. I respect what they're sharing. I respect their experience. I respect what they've studied, what they've learned. Or I respect the way that they've curated their life, or I respect the confidence and the charisma that they have around the thing that I care about. There's so many other things that are more important than them having a perfect voice. And
Yes.
there's one woman who has kind of like a monotone voice with her podcast, and a lot of people listen to it. And she's talking about things that people care about and people like her. So that's really the thing that matters more, because
Yeah.
you can have a vocally trained professional actor voice. I've trained, and that doesn't necessarily, I think it makes it better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people are more interested just because you have the perfect voice.
Ooh, I have a lot to say on this topic.
Yep.
I'm one of those people who gets annoyed at like particular voices, and I'm like, nope, can't listen to you. Bye. I will turn it off. Stagely, your voice is calming and soothing, and it is so perfect for your topic. People need your voice and your topic together because they need the soothing quality that it brings. But
Thank you.
I have gotten feedback. Oh, because I'm in Toastmasters and I speak constantly, and the feedback I get is tone it down, Carolee. You're too much. The feedback I get is your vocal variation. Bring it down. You're too, and usually it's my husband who's like, nope, you're too dramatic. You need to be a little more conversational. So anyways, there's all sorts of voices, and like I'm listening to an audiobook right now, Rich's F by Amanda Francis, and her voice drives me friggin' nuts. Like she's got like Valley Girl, like Midwestern twang, and it's like really obnoxious, but I'm still listening to it because the content outrules the annoyance of the quality of her voice.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only person who thinks her voice is annoying, but the content is what's important. And also, I find that when people are really passionate about what they're talking about, that it builds. When you're lit up, when you're passionate, your vocal variety automatically goes up.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like Jenny said here, your quality of voice will change over time. And that is so true. The
Yeah,
more confident you become, right? You get your reps in, the more you do it,
you
the
become more
more you
comfortable.
listen back to yourself and go, oh, I think I want to tweak here and tweak there. And like maybe I could lower my voice and maybe I could like raise it a little bit occasionally. And it will just over time, naturally, you get your reps and naturally you're going to feel more and more comfortable.
Seriously, go back and listen to like my first episode for like 10 seconds and you'll be like, what?
Yeah, if
Talk
you
to
go back to
Carolee.
Kathy Heller's and
I'm like, yeah,
the
I sound
beginning
like
of
a
her
different person.
episodes, her voice is a lot higher. Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like we've talked about a lot about community, but maybe we can talk for a minute about crafting compelling content. If you have content questions, post it in the chat. But I will say that my favorite way to create content is to do it at the same time that I'm making my podcast, because what I do is I make a teaser for my podcast, and then I was someone leaving. Sorry, someone had to go. I post a Oh yeah. I didn't see who had to leave because her name says Siri.
I know. It's right.
When I am creating my teaser, I use that as my reel for social media. So I create them at the same time, and then I post one, and then I put one on my podcast. So I'm trying to, as many times as possible, I try to kill two birds with one stone, which is like the
Yep.
worst phrase of all time, but that's okay. That's what I do.
Yeah. So people need to hop off, and we are so
Yeah.
excited that you guys came. I hope you got the value that you were wanting to get. Go ahead. We will send out the replay and listen back to that first initial meditation anytime that you want to. We are actually going to be doing a pop-up extra Q&A, fun sharing, addressing whatever's on your heart and minds tomorrow.
Yep.
And so if you guys know anyone who is interested, who you think would benefit from our expertise, would benefit from a loving container to be able to get their podcast where they want to get it, please invite them. Please come back. We really want to hear more from you. Maybe we'll even, have you guys unmute and share more so we can actually hear from you and address whatever's going on for you.
It's at 10:15 Pacific, right? Because it's 11:15
is-
Mountain. That's right.
We'll send it out.
It's 11:15 Mountain.
Yeah. We
That's the
just
time I can do it.
decided. We just decided. Yeah. So, yeah, it's 10:15 Pacific, 11:15 Mountain tomorrow. And so excited to convene with you guys again and really hear what's going on for you, what you want to hear about, what we can share about our.
Let's do some hot seats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will send out the replay. We'll be back here tomorrow. And please come again. Please invite anyone you know that you think would benefit. And we have so much broken down into what we're going to be sharing over this course. It's very, very, very exciting.
Yay. Thanks,
All
guys. We'll send out the
right.
replay and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.